Morning folks, and here is a video commentated on by me from a visit to, guess what, the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm Museum, which is down off the A303 in Yeovilton, home of RAF flight, sorry, not RAF, Royal Navy flight. Oh God, I can't get that wrong. Look, there's so much blue here. That's pretty cool. And it's this great building which I've attempted to go to before. I managed finally to get into it in December of last year, December 2024. I attempted to go before and then discovered it doesn't open on Fridays, which is not great if you do go on Fridays. But it's also, was in December, a little bit tricky to get to because this part of the world appears to be prone to flooding, and the new slip road off the A303 wasn't really built yet. It was about a few weeks away from opening, so it took me a long time to get in, but I think that's all fixed now. You can just follow the signs off the main road down to the southwest, and then you're in, so you don't have to wade through any of these aircraft carrier deep kind of puddles. So let's have a look where it starts. There's a surprising amount here actually, and it starts really with the real old history of the real beginnings of aviation in the Navy. And there's quite a few bits where you kind of think possibly the people who wrote the captions here were having quite a lot of fun, just slightly stiff upper lip, tongue-in-cheek stuff. So this one was a very good starting point for it. I think the phrase, none of these are ideal solutions, but they will have to do. And I think there's a whole slew in the very early stages, which really there's for all the very first time that something happened, you know, the first aircraft launched from a ship, the first aircraft recovered from a ship, the first aircraft to actually land on a ship, all of these things pretty much have the same 2 or 3 captions as Henry Harris hyphenated what's its name first did this in 1912 and then sadly was killed 3 days later attempting to repeat the feat. This seems to have happened quite a lot in the early days of naval aviation, repeatedly, not really a great survivable thing. So yeah, wheels or crash land alongside the ship, not ideal solutions. Possibly the hall could be called the not ideal solutions hall. But you know, there are still loads of toys. I think that's the CAF at the back, which you'll see more of a bit later. Not desperately great CAF as these things go, but this thing here, what is it? It's a Supermarine Walrus. You've seen the Supermarine Spitfire. This is the Walrus, a big old floaty boat. Another great bizarre story. Built in 1939. Hard to believe that's like a, you know, just at the beginning of the Second World War sort of aircraft, when we were making airplanes in Southampton, but given to the Irish Army Air Corps before the war began, which must have been pretty quick. And then there's a whole, you know, film, story, novel here. In 1942, an attempt was made to hijack it. The Germans thought, we'll have this in 1942. But the RAF stopped it and sent it back to Ireland when it's a reconnaissance amphibian. So this was another tremendous thing. This is when people used to have to send pigeons back to tell or try to get rescued if they had to ditch in the sea. So this was... we have landed to pick up DH4 crew. This was their flying boat, 50 east by north of Yarmouth. But unfortunately, the sea is too rough for us to take off. Will you please, and the word please is fabulous here, will you please send for us as soon as possible as the boat is leaking? That means they're about to sink too. We are taxiing west by south. You do that, you know, you'd write that, really neat handwriting. As soon as possible, please send a boat, otherwise we will sink. There it is, a little bit more closer up. What a fantastic bit of stiff upper lippery there. And then you start going into world of mad helicopters. There's a load of mad looking stuff here. Early helicopters were always a little bit mad. That's a pretty bonkers one. This one, you want to call it Humphrey, don't you? And draw a picture of a mouse on the front of it, because Humphrey and a mouse is exactly what this big kind of Westland thing looks like. Obviously, the southwest Yeovilton is where Westland were. All sorts of people, anybody who's taken part in any UK-based defence industry conferences may have seen this chap. There he is in his younger days. And then what have we got here? More types of Wessex. I think you buy, yeah, it looks like you can buy the Haynes manual for this one, and I think it's let's paint it a very shiny green. Definitely, that's the answer. Actually, it's one of the ones that's in the I Was There. This actually flew in the Falklands, and there's quite a few things that have flown in the Falklands. So does look a bit old school, doesn't it? But I suppose the Falklands was quite a long time ago now. And then a few more, another big helicopter. There we go. This one's slightly more visible. I suspect this has been used for search and rescue. Yeah, SAR. Yeah, SAR's down there. 771 Star. If you're in a helicopter, first of all, you've got a lovely woolly seat, a woolly seat cover, but you do have quite a lot to do, don't you? It does make you realise that it must be a reasonably complicated job to do. And back to the cafe, and do you want a shot? You know, pretty hardcore. This was about 11 o'clock in the morning, or maybe it means, have you been shot? Please ask if you have been shot, if you want to be shot, if you want a shot. Possibly it's a flavouring in your coffee. But, you know, it's the Navy, it might be a shot of rum. You never really know. And as well as just pure naval aviation, there's some slightly weird stuff. You'll see in the background, there's a Concorde. There's one of the early test flight Concordes, not a real one that went into service. And then this completely mad blue science fiction, well, not even really science fiction. I would say it's more kind of Thunderbirds-esque, Jerry Anderson type speedy aeroplane. There it is. Look how pointy is that. It was used for some sort of attempt to break the world speed record or something when Britain was making planes just to give us stuff like that with a go, and painted in a really fetching blue, completely mad, in one of the halls there. And of course, everywhere you go, that's the front of the Concorde, and there's a Harrier GR9, probably a Falklands one as well there, flying from an aircraft carrier, but and land-based Harrier normally. This one again, I think this was another one where the caption team have had a bit of fun there. A firefighting Sea-King helicopter drops its watery load, and enough about that one really. And then back to this Harrier GR9. Yep, can't read that, too small, but you've seen a Harrier in every single place, and of course there are Harriers here. And this is another one, another Sea-King used in the Falklands. This had actually flown in the Falklands. Not sure that guy was in the Falklands, but that's a stuffed dummy there. And Sea-King, less than a year after its delivery to the Royal Navy, this jungly helicopter saw combat service in the Falklands, and it was attacked in flight by Argentinian aircraft and received serious damage to its rotor blades, which you would imagine would be somewhat of a problem. But that sort of great stiff upper lip understatement carries on through the more modern stuff. And then you've got this great sort of flight deck area. This is a Sea Harrier on the jump ski ramp going up there. That is something that's not MILF in the background there, in case you're worrying. There's no display about naval MILFs. And this is just another shiny Royal Navy Sea Harrier. And Westland Lynx, another type of helicopter there. You see that groovy blue one. You've got, this is where you go up to the Concorde, or possibly come back down from the Concorde as well. Everything's kind of jammed in there. I think that's bits are folded back on it. So loads and loads of helicopters in there. Slightly asbestos. Yeah, you'd worry about asbestos really if you're handling something full of aviation fuel that's about to be shot off the front of an aircraft carrier, I'm sure. There it is, going up the ski ramp, ready to do that short takeoff off Invincible. And here's another little, there's loads and loads of models, ship models in here, which are all great through the eras, all sorts of fun things, very, very tidy. Oh, underneath, there's the Sea Harrier again, and you know, that one looks like it's naked, but move on quickly. And then you go into one of the halls, which has all been decked out like the flight deck of a carrier, which sounds a bit cheesy, but is actually really quite fun. So you can look up the periscope, see what's going on. All sorts of madness here, slightly strange aeroplanes, very Fulmer. I think this one took our fancy on the basis that there's a kind of a greenhouse thing going on. I guess if you're on a long patrol, you could, I don't know, grow some tomatoes or stuff like that, leave it on deck, and or possibly even in flight if it had a long enough range. And yeah, another great bit here. You may recognize that. This is a model of a German U-boat, but you may recognize that. And here's the story. U-69, the Laughing Cow, taken from the popular French cheese brand, which is still around today. And they were told to paint a snorting bull, and they didn't know what it looked like, so they painted this instead. And it was such fun. Well, you know, the U-boat crews are known for their frivolity and lack of seriousness. They decided to keep it as the Laughing Cow. And here's the ferry Fulmar again. You can start to see the greenhouse effect there. another thing. There's obviously biplanes, loads of biplanes and stuff. And yeah, full bit of greenhousing, Royal Navy, there it is, whizzing along. What's this one? Let's have a look. It's painted in green. It must have been flying over land, not sure. Whole different bit about ladies in the Wrens working in aircraft as well, in the big hall full of loads more aircraft toys. A Grumman Martlet, which is quite a cute stubby little aeroplane. That's probably that one. I think that looks like the Grumman Martlet. Yep, I think that's the one. Grumman Wildcat, initially called the Martlet, renamed the Wildcat just because that's cooler. I guess the only one left. And you've got the Corsair, the legendary Corsair, with the sort of flippy up wing kind of thing, all folded up, pretty battle damaged, being restored as we speak. And again, just this real big toy box full of naval aviation aircraft. Yet another huge model there. This must be sort of Second World War, post-war, with Spitfires or Seafires, I guess, or whatever they would be called. And you get into the cool vampire era kind of, again, sort of Jerry Anderson-esque sort of twin tail boom aeroplanes from that great period in the 50s, when there was loads of cool stuff being made. And you got to love a bit of a twin tail boom thing going on, with just a really teeny tiny cockpit for the pilot in there as well. Always lovely to do that. And everywhere's got a MiG. Everywhere's got a MiG-15. Taking on the prop-based Sea Fury in Korea, I suspect that would have been. And then a proper Hellcat again, more naval aviation. That's a big old beast, isn't it, really? That's a bit more chunky. And here you get the flight deck thing, the flight deck experience, which has got, you'll recognise the Harrier there, you'll recognise the Buccaneer, a few more other bits and bobs that you'll be able to see, whatever that one is. Can you see it in that one? Hopefully it's coming up later. There's a tug, there's this whole flight deck thing that you go in and crawl around, and more kind of toys and stuff out here. Look at this. Let's try and go faster by whacking on 2 sets of propellers onto this deeply unattractive aeroplane. The Westland Wyvern, a turboprop, which is different to a normal piston engine propeller, allegedly. But yeah, with 2 distinct counter-rotating. Let's try and make this as complicated as possible. Yes, and this stopped the aircraft turning to one side during takeoff, which would be important from a short flight deck. Again, bit of stiff upper lip, tongue-in-cheek caption writing there. Very neat. Sort of snuck in right at the back. What a useful thing to do, not to be able to turn to one side and fall off the aircraft carrier. I guess quite useful, quite important. And yeah, that looks like a Seafire, and can't remember what that one was. No, can't quite see it there, but it's pretty cool, isn't it, really? That's pretty stylish. And this one, again, you look like you've got kind of twin booms and stuff going on there. From the back, yep, twin engines, twin boom tail. Always a win with those things. And the Buccaneer, with again folded up wings, and the Harrier there as well. Got to love a bit of Buccaneer action. You can get up right close to these things. You see there's no wires or stuff around. You can get really close and sniff the old oil, really. And that's the sort of the big flight deck. So another jungly over there, some more older aircraft kicking about, and this sort of vague experience with a big screen of sort of displaying different types of aircraft carrier history there, whilst you're sort of in a not bad facsimile of a flight deck, without, you know, the weather and the pitching and the actual flying going on. And some cool models. This guy's happy about being on the flight deck. He looks like he's an albino version of the famous Blue Man Group. And there we are, looking at the Harrier, looking up at the control tower, or which would have been looking down at us. And yeah, the F4 Phantom, one of my personal favourites. What a big, ugly, powerful beast of a monstrously fantastic aeroplane, with the extra high nose wheel, just to sort out kind of the landing and get the proper, the takeoff, get the angle of attack working properly, on the steam powered catapult to kind of whack that along the flight deck and get it up into the air, get this enormous weight up into the air, even with its huge amount of power. Yeah, again, another kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of knob gag thing going on there. And then the Ark Royal. My uncle actually served on this. Look at that, those cute little models of F4 Phantoms. Hopefully this is all they do know, that thing's coming up, otherwise that could be kind of awkward. You got some Buccaneers going in there as well, loads of those little GP tuggy things noodling around as well. And look at this, if you've all seen that Taylor Swift photo, you're also, you know, this has taken some fashion cues from her. You're not going to know which way this one's going either, are you? It looks like it's had a deck screwed onto the top of a normal ship. And what was that one? Yeah, a model maker to the Ministry of Defence, Julian Glossop. What a top man. And a view, we've also climbed up into the superstructure of the control deck here, and you can again see all the different aircraft from a slightly different angle. Up there's the Phantom taking off in the background, there's the Buccaneer all folded up ready to go, there's some sea in the distance, and then, you know, the final bits of the Blue Man Group. These are some of the models actually within the hull. There's a few sort of games and different bits that you can go on, a few films that you can watch all about how wonderfully cosmopolitan the Navy's recruitment is now. It's definitely worth doing it. You think it's going to be a bit cheesy, but actually it's pretty good. And then if you take photos from the right angle, you can finish up your tour by making it look like some of these models are picking their nose, which, you know, is pretty childish, but it does entertain me no end. And then look, here they are. The Blue Man Group is actually working in, you know, possibly the post room. No gash. They've obviously snuck that one in there. A check before flying saves people dying. Pretty true. And the Blue Man Group are all ready, hands on hips, ready to go. Possibly he's doing a cooking thing. And that pretty much is the end of your whole experience of the Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm Museum, which is a pretty cool museum, and I'd say definitely worth a trip, particularly now it's much more accessible. Now they built the new faster sort of road down on the A303, so pop in and see it, and once you've been in, you get a ticket that allows you to go back anytime in the next 12 months as well, so definitely worth doing. I hope you've enjoyed that slightly nonsensical tour.